So I was telling you about the questions, and then to send to me and to Peter and to Véronique. If you can, Peter, please put the mails on the chat. So when I did a flashback into the PPB, and I put it the information of participatory plant breeding, and we got in the Google 8,800 results. And in the library of the knowledge in Portugal, that we had the results about 4,355. But let's get more in detail, because there are some reviews that show us much better and in more detail what we are talking about in terms of participatory plant breeding. So Ceccarelli and Grando in 2019, they did a review paper, and they noticed that there was 254 publications in the period of 36 years of participatory process and plant breeding, and there was programs ongoing in 69 countries, 10 in developed and in 59 in developing countries. The crops were quite huge, 47 crops, including self-pollinated and cross-pollinated and vegetatively propagated crops by several institutions, including CGR centers, universities, and NGOs. More recently, Colley Michaela Colley in 2021, she did a paper, but regarding the PPB in the global north. She understood that the PPB was increasingly utilized as an approach to address cropping systems needs, and she collect only the projects that had more than 3 years duration time, because plant breeding takes time. And then 47 projects emerge across the United States, Canada, and Europe. From these, 22 crops were representing the diverse crop biology and improved adaptation to organic farming systems and addressing principles and values of organic agriculture that Véronique Chable will tell you more about it. So there was an evidence that participatory plant breeding has expanded crop diversity and farmers' access to improved varieties. There was some obstacles, for instance, in sustained funding, as well as addressing regulatory barriers to the commercial distribution of PPB varieties. Some agronomic improvements were motivating the participatory with many projects, identifying goals of conservation, of crop genetic diversity, farmer seed sovereignty, avoidance of certain breeding techniques also. And there was some case studies that they did, especially on maize, tomato, brassica, wheat, and potato. So I leave you now with Véronique. Véronique, yes, the floor is yours.
So it is a summary of the reviews, because I try to give a definition of participatory plant breeding. In fact, it is very often several actors committed in the value chain and working together from seed to plates to create locally, mainly on farm, diversified, adapted, and evolutionary cultivars to increase resilience of organic food system. Next slide, please. So I will speak mainly on PPB for organic agriculture and why we are developed first PPB for organic agriculture. It was 25 years ago when European regulation for organic farming includes seed issues. It was also because there is, for the modern varieties, an evolution of plant breeding methods more and more incompatible with organic principles. And also we are facing networks of farmers that are very committed in collective organization to take care about their seed. Next slide. In fact, the question of seed was at the beginning of organic agriculture. A pioneer like Sir Albert Howard, when he wrote his agricultural testament, he summarized very well the situation for organic farming, that he has observed in his studies that the maintenance of soil fertility is the real base of health and resistance to disease. And also he observes that the parasites and found that secondaries matters because it is mainly a global and holistic problem of the ecosystem. So there is a problem of the relation between the plant and soil due to method of agriculture and also the management of soils and combination of both, but mainly unsuitable seeds. So as soon as the middle of the last century, we wonder about the seed we need for organic agriculture. Next slide. So the regulation, the European regulation in 1992 that regulate organic farming. As soon as this first regulation, we have mention of organic seed that would be mandatory for organic farmers across Europe. But at this period, no organic seed was on the market. So we need nearly 10 years before to find an organization for organic seeds. Next slide. And 10 years later, all the variety on the market were bred for industrial agriculture. No organic varieties or nearly no organic varieties were on the market, and very few organic seeds. And mainly the first development of organic seed was based on industrial varieties. So since some farmers need to think about new varieties for a good organic farming. So the first initiative of participatory plant breeding began at this period to answer to the need of organic varieties. And we have progressed for this 20 years because now we have a new regulation, new European regulation who recognize the interest of diversity within the variety, and we have the concept of organic heterogeneous material for organic agriculture. Next slide. And the second point, it is the incompatibility of breeding method with organic principles. The organic principles were principle of health, ecology, fairness, and care. So with the principle of health, ecology, of care, we have some issue about biotechnology, and we need to prefer the naturalness in the plant breeding process. So within PPB, participatory plant breeding, we are able to develop the natural way of plant breeding. And principle of fairness is also very important because most of the seed are sold by multinational company, and farmers also want to be closer to the value even for the market. So for 20 years, we have also worked collectively to have position paper to be able to choose the right varieties for organic agriculture. So we have a FIBOL document, also IFOAM, the International Federation of Organic Movement. We have also prepared a position paper. And we have also EcoPB, Consortium for Organic Agriculture, Organic Plant Breeding, who was proposed also this document. Next slide. Yes, all the slides. We observe also an empowerment of the farmer as a collective organization. We have at the same time thinking about what could be an approach, a right approach for the global organic value chain, not only market-oriented, but also to come back very life-oriented approach to better understand the ecosystem and to better breed varieties adapted to enhance the health of the ecosystem. And at the same time, we have also some movement within the farmers to boost multi-actor research, peasant research for farmer autonomy. So they come to meet researchers to help them to develop their autonomy. Next slide. Yeah, next slide. So to have a global vision of our history and agriculture and plant breeding, I have drawn this scheme from the beginning of agriculture, 10,000 years ago. Sorry. And we have at the same time the birth of agriculture and the domestication of crop with a large diversification of the crops. And we have an accident of our history with the emergence of industrial agriculture with uniform crops and the emergence of a concept of genetic resources. And very recently, we have the renew of the diversity with the emergence of participatory plant breeding. So it's a global, very simple way to think of our history, but we can summarize like that. The loss of diversity, very recent phenomena, and how we are now renewing our diversity thanks to participatory plant breeding. Next slide. So the crop domestication was a very important step because the farmers, we can observe that the farmers were very good breeder because the domestication, for example, from Teosinte to maize is a very, very huge event because it is, you see the number of characters that the farmers succeed to improve. No biotechnology are able until now to such a success. So the crop domestication was a very important step of our history. Next slide. And the concept of genetic resources is very interesting also because in fact, it is what we have conserved from the peasant plant breeding because when we have only uniform crops in the field, we have lost all the diversity, and now the diversity bred by the farmer is only in the genetic resources center. Some can be found in some farm, in some locality in the world, but most of them to begin again breeding for diversity are in the genetic resources center. Next slide. And next also we have, there is I should, yes, yeah, it's a good, and the very important point of the history is the emergence of biotechnology that are dominating now plant breeding and very incompatible with organic values. And there is a red traits just before the 1980 when we introduced molecular plant breeding, and in fact the incompatibility with organic farming were mainly at this period. And this scheme is very interesting also because it has been drawn by modern plant breeder, and when we see that they are written unconscious selection for the period of domestication, I am wondering if they are observe very well the plant. So it's very interesting to see how people are considering the history of plant breeding, because the most important improvement of the plants was was at the beginning of the diversification, and not now with genome editing and so on, when we are just modifying the plant for some character. Next slide. Next, I'm sorry. The emergence of plant breeding, so to summarize, is to also to have another interaction with the living being, with agriculture. So we are now considering again the living concept. We are not working on material, on vegetal material, but on plants that are living. And we are also considering several forms of agriculture, and peasant agriculture has also an interest to better understand the connection between plants and the agrosystem. And we are also trying to not consider the plant like an input. It was the concept of the modern plant breeding. Plants are an input like the other input in the agriculture. So for us, it is to have a reconciling with living and take care of the ecosystem. And for organic agriculture, also we need diversity, and we need to have to consider the evolution of the population in the field and in the territory to be efficient, to come back to resilient ecosystem. Next slide. At the same time, so I am always speaking about plants and humans, because if we are able to have a participatory plant breeding, we need diversity, but we need also people to organize this diversity, to connect themselves, because we need also know-how. Plant breeding is not only knowing genetic, but it is knowing all the aspects of the plants and how the plant evolve, how seed production can be done, how we can process the seed on farm. So we need to be organized locally, and we have several networks that have been created 20 years ago in France, in Italy, in Spain, and we have also creating a global network at European level. European coordination, less diversity, and to evolve all these actors. Next slide. And we have begun all together research from 2007, and to make emerge a participatory organization of the research. So the concept of multi-actor and transdisciplinary approach were defined also at this period. Next slide. So to comfort our vision within the network, within the researcher, we have progressed from a first project. It was farm seed opportunities, where we were wondering how on-farm research and on-farm seed can be managed in the seed system. So at this period, we sought mainly on-farm research. During the next project, Soliban, we have improve our participatory research and organization. And then during the H2020 research program, Diversity Food, we were able to describe our multi-actor and transdisciplinary research. So it was a global progress from the knowing of our diversities, organization of the research, and also the seed regulation. So we have progressed at all the aspects, for all the aspects during all this period. And also we are working on more and more species with the farmers and the value chains. Next slide. So for organic farming, we have two parallel group of initiative. In fact, in Europe, we have to answer to the need to organic varieties and organic seed. We have the organization of the farmers with the on-farm plant breeding, peasant cultivar and seeds. And also we have developed organic cultivar and seed from network and small seed company and other than farmers. So I will speak now, I will give an example of non-farm plant breeding, participatory research, and how we have renewed the seeds and know-how with an example of buckwheat in France. Yes, so in France, mainly in Brittany, buckwheat is very important because we have traditional recipe with galette in Brittany, and it is based on buckwheat. And we have very few varieties now. Next slide, yes. We need to increase the resilience of this crop to create new diversified population. Mainly one variety is cultivated for decades in Brittany. We have lost nearly all our traditional population. So we need to create a new population, and it is at the same time in the value chain they were thinking if we can also think to other use of buckwheat, not only our traditional recipes, but how can we work also on dual grain, because it is very appreciated for a vegetarian dish. And we have also to develop the organic value chain in Brittany for this new product. So we are working on all these aspects at the same time. This slide. So at the beginning, 12 years ago, we were wondering how to create new diversity. So we first observe all the diversity we can have access to in the genetic resources centers. Next slide. And we try two strategies. Only we mix this variety, or we try to make composite cross population. In fact, we have done this study on two species in wheat and buckwheat at the same time, autogamous and allogamous plant, and we observed the evolution of both population, of both strategy for 5 years, and at the end, the farmer didn't see any difference between the two strategies. So they were happy to mix all, and we are now working only on mixture. It was a question of the farmers, but because when they realized that we have to create diversity, to make cross was difficult for some farmers, so they wondered if we mix, it is not enough. So we have solved this question altogether, and we are sure that mixing is enough to create diversity. Next slide. Yes, and after year, we observe that the same. Yes, next. And for buckwheat, our first strategy is to create new diversity. So we try to collect all the traits a farmer needs. So they wanted to keep the good taste of the local variety, Petit Gris, Petit Prussien, but also to introduce the dual grain character. So we introduced some other species from the east of Europe, and we observe that we try to have the more diverse variety to create a very diversified population. Next slide. So after 5 years, no difference, and we observe also with the farmer if we select on one trait, for example, the size of the grain, but we have no difference of the global diversity. So for them, it was interesting to know that they can select on one character, they will keep the overall diversity. So it is why from these studies, we are now studying only one population. Next slide. And to follow the diversity, how the varieties are evolving in the farm, if the population is keeping its diversity, we don't use any more genetic markers, but only the morphology of the grain, the color, the shape, and we have enough traits to be able to follow the diversity in each place, and it was an interesting marker and very cheap. Next slide. And we are trying this experience is still running. We are trying to have dual grain and to improve the population for this trait. And the strategy is to sow dual grain to try to focus mainly on this on the seeds that they keep this ability to be dehulled. And we have at the middle of the experience next year, we will see if we are succeeded to improve the rate of dehulling grain in this population. And next slide. And at the same time, we are working on the machine. So we have now a new actor working with us. It's Atelier Paysan. It's a collective, an association who are helping the farmers to work to create the machines they need. So at the same time, we are improving the variety. We are trying to improve the machine. So we improve both aspects to increase the rate of the grain on farm. So, and the global organization of our work. So we have several projects. Now we have a small project funded by the Britain region, UTSM, connected to LiveSeeding. And we are working on the machine. We are not only working on our dehulling equipment, but we are also wondering if we can improve the sowing machine for the harvest, for sorting the grain. So we are questioning all the steps the farmers they need to be helped, and we try to conceive the machine to help on farm plant breeding and to work both on both systems at the same time. And so we are also exploring new diversity together. And the difficulty, the challenge is still always to have all the farmers committed, involved at each steps. And this time we have to recognize that the organic professional are stressed because of the economic global situation. And we have to support them more than usual in experimentation, and to be very huge solidarity should be all together to be able to continue. For me, it's enough. Yes. So we are on time.
Yes, I think, yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you part of my story and part of the story that I followed. And the story that I followed started with this person that is Dr. Silas Pego, that and some of the farmers. And he realized that land races were disappearing from Portugal. That we were in the 70s, 80s, and he realized that it was needed to do something. He was a breeder in the local breeding station, our national breeding station for maize, so he needed to do something. And he knew that the hybrids program were were increasing. So this was a question of time. So we started to make the collections, and because of that, of these collections, we started to be then the gene bank from the Mediterranean region, and because of him, and then Rena Farias, the second biggest collection of maize in the world. But one of the issues that he had was he was a farmer and he wanted to pursue what what was really the farmer's issue, because these land races could couldn't have something for the farmers. What could we do? What could be done at the time? So it started in the 84 with association of farmers in Lousada, the Participatory Plant Breeding program. And he knew that all this that is more recent, but the farmers, we asked it when we did some collections to organize the seeds, organize the years, how they select. So this was a knowledge that was inside. So it was needed to do something more. I talked to you about this in the morning, but it was needed to make some structure and especially uh, doing some selection at the flowering time and before harvest, because at the harvest all the farmers used to do, but regarding the plants they lose the process. So the stocked plants, the lodged plants, they couldn't, they collect the years, so they had the problems again and again. And this was one of the questions at the end. It was the how to recover genetic resources in a way that can be used and maintaining the quality and increasing the production. So in a way that not only put in the frozen, in the freeze, the germplasm, but keep germplasm evolving on time. This was some of the materials that the germplasm that were collected at the time to the with the farmers and started to be worked with them. This is amiudo and this is pigarro. The that's some of the germplasm that where more efforts were done. And this was also one of them that I will talk you later in the 5.2 unit, because it has Portuguese and American germplasm, but it had another. Uh, it was more to attract the farmers to go to the fields, but not. This was not intentionally for maize bread. So the idea was, and the motivation was not to forget and replace by the hybrids, but evolve and valorize, and how to keep the seeds sown instead of how to keep seeds for the grain and finish. And that's where I came in the Vaso 2.4. If you can talk about this, try to connect and in as Veronique mentioned in 2010 there was the Sullivan project started, so it was a good moment for us to uh, enter more in the transdisciplinary and multi-actor approach. So valuing the genetic resources and beyond, and what were the issues and the challenges to make the seed possible to get to the plate. So who provides the seeds, who sell the production, who sell the processed food, all are were the questions and still are, because many of these things take a long time. Well, what I wanted to show you here is that I will going to show you some more things that we have done and some publications, etc. But what I wanted to mention that for us it's really, really the backbone is that we need to it's like it's really the backbone. If we don't have this backbone rolling, and sometimes it's not needed a huge amount of money, but it's needed to maintain, to keep the pace, to be there. It's to have the populations, make the selections, make the recurrent selection or the new populations, um, the knowledge. How can we evolve? How can we bring knowledge to the farmers? How can we bring knowledge from the farmers to us? How can we bring all the knowledge in these actors of the chain or of the network, if we said so? So in terms of co-organization, the trials, how can we monitor trials? How can we show the varieties? But one of the issues that is really important is that the uh, the farmers keep their germplasm evolving on their farm. That's really the issue for us. And so it's needed these seeds, or they have the seeds, or in some cases we can provide the seeds. The selection of their own populations or the provided seeds, continuing, the making the trials also. So to the monitoring the selection, because if we select the C0, we wanted to know what happened after 3 years, and we wanted that these seeds sometimes in their own fields. And we need also some organization that arrange and help us in the farmer support in the co-organization, in order that we can make a network that works, even that slowly process, but continues, and I believe that will be successful. And it is, but with more in terms of selling the floor and selling all that. Then we come here without. I was talking about the backbone. Then we have also another issues. We can track the genetic diversity. We can improve agronomy, the quantitative genetics, molecular, special traits, quality, food technology, socioeconomics that are embedded on it. So this is really important. What we have been done is continue to collect and characterize, because there are still farmers that have their own varieties, and some of them they want to want to continue to have them. So we can talk with them, we can improve, help to improve their selection, create some dynamic populations also. This was also a study more in the on station, but could be interesting. And we have tried also in the farmers place. That was a collection of Azores that was frozen, and with a student from Azores, and then with INRAe that is working with me now, we were able to bring again these varieties that are completely different from others in Portugal. Um, then, if we want to, and I've told you already about that, if we want to make the selection with the farmers, uh, we need to track what is going on. And that's why I have this picture. It seems quite complex, but it's not. What you have here is the number of years, and then these all these cycles needs to be on the stored on the frozen on freeze, in order that when we wanted to make trials to in the farmer's field, in our field, so in several places, we can track, we can go back, we can regenerate seeds, and then make the trials in order to know what happens during these years of selection. That's why I explained to the farmers that it's really important that along the years they provided also some samples in order that we can do that and to give some answers what happened during the time. Otherwise, we have a nice story, but we cannot measure, and it's important also to measure. So was the cycles of farmer. As you see, one cycle per year. If we are talking about breeding selection, the breeder selection by S2 lines, we take 4 years. So what is important to know is really this. It gives you um, an advantage or not. And for some of the populations that we work with, for instance, with the pigarro that has a lot of fasciation, it was not so clear. For others, yes. Well, these populations, it's used also for trials in the field, but we can also uh, use them to trial on the molecular basis. So was a picture that summarizes more or less what did happen during the breeder selection and the farmer selection. If you see the farmer selection, the farmer increased a little bit the ear uh, diameter, but less. It was the length was decreased a bit. In case of the breeder selection, the length was bigger, as you can see here. And there was some traits, for instance, the gain in yield that increase for the farmer selection, but for the breeder selection, it was not so obvious, at least with this population as I have referred. Well, this is also, we wanted to know about the genetics, moleculars, if there was deplecting of the diversity or not, and not so. So there was a maintenance of diversity. And this is quite cloudy, but you can see that during the selection process, this is the starting point. There was some changes, and you see here at least the breeder, the cycle 3 of the breeder selection, and the farmer selection that went to the other corner. This is another example about what we have done in terms of the several populations that we have used and in different locations, and we were able, for instance, Amiudo, that it's the yellow color maize that I've shown you before, that in Lousada there was an increase of grain yield. So as in Serra do Carvalho, that were two locations where we did the selection with the farmer. For Castro Verde, that it's a very orange maize. There was the bigger ears for Lousada, that is a location in north, ear length, kernel weight, number of rows, and number of kernels. And for Coimbra, there was also bigger ears, and additionally, there was a maintenance of orange flint grain and decreased height of ear insertion in the plant and increased stalk resistance. So this was done by us, and this was done more at farmer level. So if you want to follow more some of these informations, it was published, and then you will be able to see that in the presentation. Well, and how Véronique was talking about, our process was not, and because we started in '84, was not directly to organic. So that's as being an effort to go to it. And in some cases, farmers are more receptive, and that's fine. Others, we need more time, but we continue the process. So this is important, and that's one of the projects that if you want, well, it's in Portuguese, but you can go there. That was Divulgar Bio, a project that helped us to help farmers to make this conversion. So in terms of for them to understand about soil and water, about the promotion of the biodiversity, about commercialization, and how can they do the conversion and certification, because it's important that we can be there to make this transition. The socioeconomics is, as Véronique mentioned, it's really crucial. I've already mentioned about some of the initiatives. This was an initiative that it was the best year of Sousa Valley competition that makes the farmers interested in the maize, so they apply with 1 year and to the competition, and then they there was the evaluation and see what was the winner. But the important thing here is to it's the way, is a pedagogical way where you can talk um, about traits or characteristics about maize, but also about other things like, for instance, the organic agriculture. So it's a moment, important moment for the farmers. Oh, this is other way that we evaluate not the kernels, but the maize. We have several samples and there was evaluation. This was one of them. We did also with sensorial analysis and also some talks, continuous talks with the farmers, showing, for instance, the some marketing strategies. What is one of the issues was, for instance, uh, what is the price that they are willing to sell the grain, otherwise they will not produce this maize. So it's important to valorize because generally they don't produce so much, so they need it to have different approach, different chain value. These are another uh, um, several of them that we have the evaluation on the farmer fields. And nowadays we have, as LiveSeeding, we have also CERTRA, that it's a national project that is developing the chain values of the traditional cereals. So we wanted to have, we are working with maize, with rye and wheat, but only the traditional varieties. So the activities that we are doing is identify producers with traditional cereals, um, promote and valorize the Mediterranean diet, introduce technologies and measures for product traceability and authenticity, encouraging access to safe, diversified, seasonal, and qualitative food, and informing training and education about healthy and sustainable eating and combating food waste. So it's the idea of developing the value chain for traditional cereals, involving producers, processors, milling and baking traders, and consumers in the process. And what is expected is to valorize these products as a knowledge of their nutritional and organoleptic values, promote the added valued food products based on Mediterranean diet, and creating new market opportunities, um, participate in the network of producers committed to preserving this Portuguese biodiversity and sharing knowledge and good practices for the continuous improvement of this production, and also contribute to the promotion of sustainable quality agriculture. We have been also using some tools, um, as for instance seed linked. We have connected with for instance with the yield. We were not we did this linked because we wanted also that farmers could use some of these samples and have in their way how to evaluate some of the varieties if we don't have a way to evaluate in terms of yield as we did in the trials. And it's interesting because there was a good connection, a good correlation between the seed linkage and the trials when there was measured agronomically. So this is a way to unlocking the potential of the Portuguese traditional maize, and it summarizes what I told you about. Then some other aspects that, again, don't forget, never forget about the backbone, but some that we need to know about what is going on in the microbiome of maize. And we did this publication, and it's interesting because we hope to have some other publications soon. Um, and this is interesting because, especially for fungi, when we did it in organic or in conventional, you see that there's a lot more fungi in the organic than in the conventional. You see that it's really few bacteria. It's also a difference, but not so deep differences as we saw in the fungi. Then other initiatives like this culinary breeding, not only for maize bread, but in this case we did with the cob in the milky stage, and we wanted to know, do our maize, it's interesting for eating in fresh. So we did this trial, and there was some interest, and there was highlight in the land races organically, ready to be sold and served to consumers, and what were the attributes that most attract consumers and attention. So attributes such color showed great acceptance among participants. The texture was also another approved characteristics among them. Um, there are some questions. Can you, Petra, do you identify some questions on the chat?
Just a second. For this particular session, no, there are no questions right now. If someone has a question, maybe you can ask it right now.
Yeah. Or experience to share.
Mm-hmm.
Charlotte asked, are you using participatory approach for selection of microbiome interaction?
Indirectly. Yes, we are. For my experience on SoftWheat, we have compared land races, bred on farm, and modern varieties, even bred for organic agriculture. And we observe the difference of collaboration between microorganism and the plant. So indirectly, we are working on increasing the good collaboration between the roots of the plants and the microbiome, because also it could be understood because more and more studies show also that there is a connection, a transmission of microorganisms from one generation to another through the seeds. So we are making some kind of selection also of the holobionte globally. It's not only a genetic selection of one plant, but it's an holobionte selection from generation to the other. So we increase the adaptation to the local condition, microbiological condition. And only on-farm plant breeding and seed production, on-farm production is able to increase this collaboration.
Well, for our case, we have tried to, we did it, some trials with the conventional and the organic, and in the And also in the organic, we have some varieties that are able to produce in a very harsh conditions and low input conditions, very low input conditions. And we wanted to know, are there anything to help these populations that are related to the microbiome? So we are doing that research in comparing the top varieties that were on the conventional, the top that were in organic, and also the others that were in the bottom. So we wanted to know if there are some relationship. So, but there will be a lot of discussion and work to go. But the trials were done. Yeah.
Another question is, do the farmers do the evaluation themselves, and how can they score the microbiome?
Mm. Do you should I start or you?
Yes.
Okay. Well, regarding the microbiome, it's quite more specific. We needed to go and to establish trials, to take the samples, etc. And we are not asking to the farmers to do it. We can share some of the results that we have obtained in the microbiome, but not for them to evaluate. At least if there are some techniques that we could do it, fine, but I don't know. Regarding the other evaluation, yes. For instance, with Sync Linked, we did evaluation. Some others, even without Seed Linked, with some other tools that using some piece of paper and scoring the varieties that they like more. So that's or even with when we have some trials in the farmer fields, for instance, the farmer that owns the land, and if they are really interested, they generally go to the maize and they say, oh, this is really nice germplasm. This was not so interesting. So they in that case they do it. Yeah, Véronique, do you want to add some?
We have connected activities on the aspect. So we have to measure to be able to explain what happened in the field, but more often the farmers are managing the population by feeling, not measuring all the things. So they are collaborating with researchers, it's our role to describe what happened in the field. For some example, for buckwheat, we are observing the earliness, deviation of earliness. So we try, like Pedro explained, we are taking sample each time and we are comparing the evolution of the population. So we are providing them some information of what they are doing, but sometimes it is not quite connected. It's not, they are working in their field and we are also observing what happened in their field, but sometimes we have small experimentation besides the field to explain what are. So it depends on the question. So, but they know where they want to go, and we try to help them to reach the objective the more rapidly we can do.
Thank you, Pedro and Veronique. Does anyone have any other question, maybe? You can say it or you can put it in the chat. We have another question. Since organic selection focuses on the adaptation to local conditions, should detailed information about the particular environment conditions be described when registering organic varieties? It's a long question. If I wasn't very, you can see it in the chat also if you want to see it. So maybe it will be a little bit clearer.
Check. I don't see it in the chat. So it was, the question was about the condition, how we manage a condition. We observe.
Yeah, so since organic selection focuses on adaptation to local conditions, so yeah, to local conditions, should detailed information about the particular environmental conditions be described when registering organic varieties?
At the end, there is the word register, but we never, in our case, we have not registered any variety. The farmer, the variety are managed on farms. They are exchanging within seed association, but they are never marketed on seed market, so they don't need to be registered.
Okay.
But we describe the condition as far we can do to exchange knowledge between the farmers. But it's important for farmers when they exchange seeds to begin another selection to have the knowledge from where the seed have been produced and the soil conditions, the climate, and so on. But it depends of the condition of exchanges.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's quite important. That the information about the environment and generally we try to gather some of the information that exists because if we have, for instance, a population that is adapted to a certain location, could go to other location that has a similar conditions but again as happened with us and with Véronique too, what in some of the cases it's important to have a population with diversity that could adapt to the location. Even that we make some register, then it will be not our core, but if the farmer use that some of this variety, it will adapt. If it's a population, it will adapt to their own location. So at least with maize, it's like that. Other crops are more difficult, and you need the. But for our case, it's more easy.
Great, thank you. Does anyone else have a question, maybe, or no? They all say thank you. So yeah,
Thank you too.
We can wrap up, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So we, Véronique, should I start? Okay. We in terms of what we learned today, I think you know much better than us, but we were talking about the not only the participatory plant breeding itself, but their context, that it's quite important, and their adaptation to organic, as Véronique mentioned. Do you want to add something more, Véronique?
Yes, perhaps a great difference between modern varieties when being bred somewhere, the seed has been produced elsewhere. And there is no more connection between the plant breeding process and the soil and the climate where they will be grown. Participatory plant breeding connect again the plant breeding process and the place, the locality, and the practices with which the seed will be used. So in this way, we are much more efficient for organic way of producing because each organic field is different from another. All the places are different because there are no we cannot manage a field that a modern field. So the plant breeding, participatory plant breeding, is the best way to enhance resilience and adaptation of crop to organic project.
Thank you. So as I did mention in the quiz also, but you can see it here. The proposed homework it is what is the nearest participatory plant breeding project from your home. Characterize the chosen project in a brief paragraph. Start, the responsible, the crops, and what is the production system used. Okay, and that's it.
We just have a question. So I think it's a typo.
Sorry, it's 20,
yeah, the 20th.
Yeah, sorry.
So homework by the 20th of February. So it's next Thursday.
Next Thursday.
Yeah.
But for whom already reply in the that it's for the next. Well, Véronique, I don't know if we have 3 minutes. If
yes.
You want to give an overview about these additional available materials that I found very, very nice.
Yes, there is 4 different experiences. The first one is what we are doing in France with the farmers. It was the video was produced during the Organic World Congress. We have the pre-conference on seed in our country, and we wanted also to witness of our activities with the farmers. The second one, Cereal Renaissance in the Field, is several experience in Europe during the University European project firstly based on genetic resources valorization. And we have several farmers in Italy, Belgium, France, and elsewhere that witness about the activity with the researcher. The third one was the activity of our colleague in USA, the team of Julie Dawson is with since university. Julie was our postdoc during Farm Seed Opportunities, so we are connected. And the last one is in Belgium, also participatory plant breeding and wheat and nature.
Okay.
It's managed. So.
Thank you very much. You have also additional available materials. And I want also to acknowledge to our farmers. I think, Véronique, you say the same. Research technicians, collaborators, and to LiveSeeding. And I want to, again, to mention, to don't forget, because it's the last day, it's 17th of February, and I hope to see you all in our conference in Portugal, in Coimbra. Thank you very much for all your questions, patience, and interest in our talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Pedro and Véronique.